Thank you very much. So we are indeed very honored to have Mr. Madhu S. Nair, Chairman and Managing Director of CSL, chairing the session today. And we are extremely honored also to have Dr. Malini V. Shankar, the Vice-Chancellor of IMU with us. The presentation is going to be carried out Dr. Jayakumar, the Managing Director and CEO of Vizhinjam International Port. The agenda for today is given here. You could kindly go through it a little bit.
So if you can make it full screen as well, I think it will be easier for us to do. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm afraid, Amir, we can't hear you well. So in the meanwhile, we'll go ahead. It is my great honor to introduce the session chairman, Mr. Madhu Nair. We're extremely happy to have Mr. Nair with us. Mr. Nair did his Bachelor of Technology BTech in Naval Architecture and Shipbuilding from QSAT with first class, and completed his master's degree in Naval Architecture and Ocean Engineering from Osaka University, Japan. He has spent 34 years in shipbuilding. Cochin Shipyard is known to have built many big ships, including the latest aircraft carrier for Indian Navy. Under his leadership, CSL has become a listed company after a very successful IPO. CSL is undertaking two major expansion projects worth 3,000 crores. CSL also has been making a foray into the inland waterways transport vessel segment through its fully owned subsidiary, earlier known as Hubble Docking and Port Engineering, works in Kolkata, and has forged alliance with major port trusts in India, namely Mumbai Port Trust, Kolkata Port Trust, and has established a ship repair unit at Port Blair. Mr. Nair has been a key driver in forging alliances with international technology partners. He was also instrumental in conceptualizing the small ship division and key player in bagging international contracts while he was heading the marketing department division of Cochin Shipyard. Heartiest welcome to you, Mr. Nair. May I request you to now take over and conduct the proceedings with introduction of Dr. Malini Shankar, her speech, and thereafter introduction of Dr. Jayakumar. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Dasgupta. Thanks for the kind words. And at the outset, my pranams to Dr. M.K. Ghoshroy and Professor Mishra, extremely senior veteran naval architects in the industry. So pranams to both of you. And for me, it's a privilege to chair this session. We have two eminent personalities with us today. First of all, let me welcome Professor Dr. Malini V. Shankar, the Vice-Chancellor of the Indian Maritime University. Personally, for me, my interactions with ma'am has been as the Director General of Shipping, a very affable person, a very proactive individual. And today, when she is helming the Indian Maritime University, we're extremely pleased to have you with us today, ma'am. And let me have a quick introduction about ma'am. Very, very talented, multi-faceted personality. She is a 1984 batch IAS officer, has gone through varied postings and varied services, especially in the areas of water and whether it's municipal areas, irrigation, environment-related things, and a lot of economic sectors in both in power, commerce, and industry. She's currently the Vice-Chancellor of the Indian Maritime University. Ma'am is a honorary member of the Board of Directors of the World Maritime University, having been nominated by the International Maritime Organization. She is a member of the government-appointed board of the directors of the ILFS group of companies. When ILFS had to be restructured, the government turned to some extremely influential people, and ma'am was one of them. Srimati Malini B. Shankar has a doctoral degree in institutional economics from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and a management degree from the Asian Institute of Management, Manila. And she is one of the 7 global recipients of the AAA award by the Asian Institute of Management, Manila, Philippines in 2020. And I understand she is the first Indian woman to receive the award. On behalf of the Institution of Naval Architects, on my personal behalf, ma'am, thanks a lot for being with us today. For me, it's also a matter of privilege to introduce Dr. Jayakumar, whom I have personally known for long now. Dr. Jayakumar, again, one of the key personalities in the Indian port infrastructure space today. Today, he is Managing Director and CEO of the Vizhinjam International Seaport Limited. For us, coming from Kerala, a matter of added pride that this major seaport is coming up at the southern tip of Kerala. And I'll try to be brief when introducing Dr. Jayakumar, because his credentials spanning across the technical and the managerial space is extremely large. More than 3 decades of experience in the planning, design, and construction of ports and harbors in India and abroad. Dr. Jayakumar is a topper from the University of Kerala in civil engineering, from the College of Engineering, Trivandrum, and subsequently he has done his MTech and PhD, both from the Ocean Engineering Center in IIT Madras. Started his career with the Kerala Harbour Engineering Department in 1981. Served the government of Kerala in various roles, and in view of his qualifications and experience in the maritime sector, was appointed as Special Private Secretary to the Honorable Minister for Ports in Kerala in 2001, Advisor Ports to the Government of Kerala. He has also had a brief stint with the Kerala State Maritime Development Corporation, and he has been an active player in India's foray into the wave power space. He has been part of the IIT Madras Department of Ocean Engineering foray along with ANERT in this area. And Jayakumar was instrumental in conceptualizing, design, project structuring, financing for the Vizhinjam International Seaport Limited. And probably we'll hear much more about this, what is happening in Vizhinjam. But Vizhinjam is one of the largest infrastructural experiments, I should put it that way, happening in the country. Experiment because this is for the first time that viability gap funding is being brought into a space where the infrastructure itself is being invested by the private sector. So classic case of private sector, which is today the Adani Group, along with the government of Kerala and the government of India coming together. And this entire project is being held tight by Dr. Jayakumar. His other credentials, he's been, as I said, part of the member of the Wave Energy Group of IIT Madras from 88 to 94, was selected by the United States Department of Commerce for special American business internship program in port development in Washington. And 96 to 99, Dr. Jayakumar served as advisor technical and port development in Westport, Malaysia, which is one of the most modern seaports in Asia. And during his tenure in the Westport, Malaysia, he headed several projects, including container transshipment terminal, dry bulk terminal, and was part of the Malaysian delegation to develop ports in India, Myanmar, and Cambodia. recipient of various awards. He has played a vital role in drafting the port and maritime infrastructure policy for the government of Kerala, widely recognized in peer-reviewed journals across the world, well-traveled, and Dr. Jayakumar has been conferred with the Outstanding Engineering Personality Award by the Institution of Engineers, India, Kerala in 2016. So, extremely talented, extremely experienced personality to talk to us today on an area which is again extremely important for the country. Tip of Kerala, Dr. Jayakumar will come out very clearly on this, but probably the closest one can get to the international sea route between east and west, just 8 to 10 nautical miles off. And today, like when India is talking about the Maritime India Vision, Vizhinjam is key in all these discussions. So thanks a lot, Dr. Jayakumar, for coming over to the home turf of the institution of naval architects, people like me. And while I can see that the connect between the naval architects and the ocean engineering is all being bridged through the alma mater of yours, which is IIT Madras. And for us, again, a matter of great pride to have you here. So with this, I hand over to Dr. Jayakumar for...
Sorry, I would request Dr.
Malini
Shankar, Chief Guest, to address us, please.
Sure. So before the presentation, ma'am,
yes,
just kindly address the session, ma'am.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are listening. And thank you, Mr. Madhu, for those kind words. And to Mr. Das Gupta, thank you for inviting me to be in this technical seminar. And my pranams to Dr. Ghoshrai, Dr. Jayakumar, Professor Mishra, and all the doyens of shipping who are listening. I feel humbled to be among this very esteemed set of experts, and it's a privilege to be with all of you. I'm sure that all of you know much more about deep sea ports than I can ever claim to have. I will just share a few thoughts. Vizhinjam International Deepwater Multipurpose Seaport was a greenfield project, as we all know. And the idea of deep sea ports seemed to have taken roots sometime a decade ago across the world. This Vizhinjam port will include a cargo port and a passenger port, as I understand, and the port will have an in-port rapid transit metro system that will connect passengers within the passenger terminal of the port. It also says that the Deepwater Seaport is in 360 acres of land with a capacity to handle 80% of India's cargo and involves reclamation of 130 acres from the sea. The site has a natural depth of 24 meters, which is by far the best compared to other ports in the world, as close as 1 nautical mile from the sea coast. Now, there is so nature has given it an edge, and the site needs no dredging or minimal capital dredging requirements, and therefore low cost, all of which means that the operations and maintenance costs will be very low. So this is what I gathered from whatever I could read on the Vizhinjam Deepwater port. Now, further reading opens up an issue of the classical debate between environment and development. A key benefit also is the proposed rail connectivity, and Dr. Jayakumar is quoted to say this would be a long tunnel aligned at 9 kilometers at present and could turn out to be India's second longest rail tunnel. But one of the main concerns around the project is its impact on the coastline. And a study conducted by Ministry of Earth Sciences identifies Thiruvananthapuram district as a high erosion region. And the locals have had some issues with it. Particularly, the breakwater presents an issue in displacing erosion away from its natural patterns. The port requires a 3-kilometer long breakwater to shelter vessels from waves and currents. And the sea is reported already to be responding fairly violently. So these strong currents will be pushed to the area on either side, and it is reported that about 50,000-60,000 fishermen rely for their livelihood in this area. And it is also supposed to represent a potential risk to coast, structural integrity, and multiple natural systems. So the National Green Tribunal on top of it has posed the challenge by imposing a 200-meter minimum distance between stone quarries and residential structures. The concessionaire of the project is said to be struggling to source rocks to construct the breakwater. Now, this background, I thought, I will share what I read, because there are three aspects to this deepwater port. There is the development, and there's maintenance, and there's viability. So the technology and the technical inputs which go into this project, it's a very ambitious project. It's not just the construction, but how do you ensure maintenance and sustainability? Because as I see it, infrastructure development, livelihoods, and preservation of marine environment are parts of the whole project. A deepwater port, technological advances need to take into account, they need to balance these aspects in today's world, not just during the construction phase, but in across the project life cycle. Deepwater projects typically are said to face technical and financial challenges to their viability. Such challenges are increasingly becoming significant for operators, consultants, and contractors alike. It is essential that these challenges are assessed, mitigated, and managed throughout the project execution by selecting appropriate field development plans and modifying project implementation methods. So professional risk assessment takes a very significant role in this context. Studies that have been conducted in other deepwater ports and installations, and I cite one example of Cabrillo Port in the United States western coast, reveal many concerns in respect of the identification and evaluation of credible threats and the analysis of the potential fire and dispersion hazards associated with possible large oil spills or LNG spills. There are other studies that deal with the importance of port choice and container terminal selection for deep sea container carriers. One such study done by Bart Wigmans et al. For port choice has indicated that the most important criteria from a carrier's perspective is found to be availability of hinterland connections, reasonable tariffs, immediacy of consumers, that is a large hinterland. While the immediacy of consumers is very much available in the peninsula, the hinterland connections and tariffs can continue to be a challenge. In addition to these criteria, shipping lines attach great value to often neglected factors such as feeder connectivity, environmental issues, and the total portfolio of the port. So construction is one part, the management of the port is equally a daunting exercise. And a last word on this is, of course, the capacity building in the sector. To address all these challenges, technological issues in the construction, as well as management and sustainability issues. I think we do have, people like Mr. Madhu Nair and Dr. Jayakumar, Dr. Ghosh Roy, and Mr. Das Gupta himself, who are on the forefront of technology, who kept pace with the technology. But I would like to see a day when, for example, the ship designs today are still imported. There is not much of ship design happening in India. Similarly, when we are talking of deep water port, I would like to see whether it's entirely indigenous, make in India, or whether we're still relying on imported talent and imported knowledge. So these are areas where I would really like to see sea change in building the capacities, whether it is within the Indian Institutes of Technology or in the Maritime University or a cluster. And in this regard, in this context, I would like to say what Mr. Madhu Nair had said earlier, because we have to be in alignment with the Maritime India Vision 2030 and the ambitious targets and objectives that have been set therein. So thank you once again for having invited me and allowing me to share a few words. And I look forward to hearing Dr. Jayakumar and the others in the rest of the session. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks for your very, very enlightening thoughts And I'm sure like as we move forward, Dr. Jayakumar would be able to address many of those, but you're trying to connect between technology, environment, and the long-term sustainability. I think that says it all. And I welcome Dr. Jayakumar for his presentation now.
Thank you, sir, for the nice introduction. And also with the sort of introduction made by Mr. Madhu Nair and the way in which Professor Malini, Shankar ma'am has presented, I don't think that I will be able to, I don't know what I will be able to do present now, other than the technical aspects of the whole thing. Anyway, Mr. Jyotisman Das Gupta, President, Institution of Naval Architects, Dr. Professor Malini Shankar, IAS Vice-Chancellor, Indian Maritime University, Mr. Madhu Nair, Chairman and Managing Director, Cochin Shipyard Limited, Dr. Ghosh Roy, Mr. Professor Mishra, the Technical Secretary, Commodore Sujit Baxi, Indian Navy, who used to interact with me. So, and members of the Institution of Naval Architects and my dear friends participating in the session from various places in this domain. Good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I'm delighted, extremely delighted at the opportunity given to me to speak before such an august elite crew. And I'm all the more delighted to be with you all because my ambition was to become a naval architect and join the Corps of Naval Constructors in Delhi, Indian Navy, which I couldn't succeed. So that is with me. So anyway, it's nice to be here in this domain. All the stalwarts like Dr. Malini Shankar, Mr. Madhu Nair, professors, and other eminent personalities as naval architects. Here, before I start, this COVID-19 pandemic has really forced us to confine to the monitors to participate in this such a program. This has become the new normal now. Initially, when the outbreak happened in Wuhan, everyone thought it's only China's problem. Nobody thought things that anymore. The first country to be hit by COVID-19 is now the only one with a recovering economy and a re-emerging population. For the rest of the world, uncertainty is the only certainty, and hope we'll be able to come out successful and survive this situation very soon. So with these, I would like to start on my presentation. My talk has been very nicely introduced by the earlier speakers, is on the upcoming Deepwater port at Vizhinjam, which will be a prime mover in the maritime sector of the country. This is one of the top priority projects of the state government and which is slated for commissioning in the next 2 to 3 years' time. The project which started with the Big Bang were to be commissioned, were to be underway in December 2019, but that's delayed as put rightly by Dr. Malini Shankar, that is in the difficulty due to difficulty in rock sourcing by the concessionaire, which is none other than Adani Group. It's I would say the onus or the responsibility for sourcing rock is with the concessionaire, but they were depending on the quarries in and around Trivandrum or Vizhinjam, and even from Tamil Nadu, but they hit roadblocks to source rock. And off late, or I think within India, the Hon'ble National Green Tribunal has come out with an order restricting the buffer or giving limitations on the buffer zone for the inhabitants with the that is from the quarry to the inhabitants. That is from the 50-meter buffer which was earlier available, they increased to 200 meters, whereby none of the quarries in Kerala can be made operational. So there are a lot of petitions who have gone up to Supreme Court, and we are waiting Honorable Supreme Court, and we are waiting for the final verdict. Meanwhile, the concession is trying to source rock from Tamil Nadu in large quantities and also from other sources. And government is also very keenly trying to help the concessionaire in making available this rock. So with this, I have a small presentation, which I would like to start. My screen, is it visible?
Yeah, we can see your screen. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a few slides, but the way in which the project was introduced by Mr. Madhu Nair and Professor Malini Shankar, I think most of the points which have been pointed out, I would like to say during the course of my presentation. So here, to start with, I would like to introduce my presentation with a phrase like saying about our country, the future is here. And I would like to take you to an year where India would be by 2050. India, these are just my aspirations, and I hope many of you would concur to this. India would be a superpower by the year 2050, which accounts for 25% of the GDP of 9 developed nations of the world. And I'm coming back to the present situation where we are now. Like India, what would be by 2030? Where Indians would have reached every corner of the world, be it services, manufacturing, engineering, or retail, or banking. Even now, we are every part of the world now. And by 2025, this is another aspiration, or one could say it's my prediction, that Microsoft would shift its headquarters to India, and India becomes the financial hub of the world and the largest R&D center of the world. And we would cross very easily $5 trillion economy. And where are we now? Like it is 2021, and we are the largest resource of 555 million young people under the age of 25, and the largest service provider in the world. And we are also the largest knowledge center of the world. And there are more engineers and technicians in the Bangalore than Silicon Valley. And on the purchasing power parity, which is another macroeconomic index, India is the third largest economy behind US and China. So it's truly a fascinating India. So we are very much lucky to be in India. But a country which has about 18% of the world's population handles only a minuscule 1% of the world's cargo, which translates to $718 billion of annual foreign trade. So what is responsible to carry this annual trade are the Indian ports. If you look at the Indian port scenario, then 95% of the total cargo is traded through sea, which translates to 70% by value in monetary terms. And we have a very long coastline of 7,517 kilometers, started with 12 major ports and around 200 non-major ports, out of which 141 are operable non-major ports. Here, major ports and non-major ports have nothing to do with the size of the port. Major ports are those which are controlled by Government of India, and non-major ports are controlled by the respective maritime state governments. And if you look at the cargo handled in 2019-20, which is the figure available with me, the major ports are handled around 704 million tons, and non-major ports 650 million tons, or altogether around 1.3 billion tons. And the main commodities handled in all these ports are petroleum oil, lubricants, iron, coal, containers. The total growth rate of container is around 12%. It's a cumulative growth average, compounded average growth rate, and overall it's 9%. And now I'll be talking mainly on containers because Vizhinjam is poised mainly as to be developed mainly as a container terminal, and that too for transshipment. These are some statistics of the container trade in India. If you look at the volume of container handled in the last fiscal, 2019 to 20, we handled about 16.1 million TEUs. And the level of containerization again, if you see, India is only 22% when compared to the world average of 80%. So that means we have to go a long way to containerize our goods. For 22% to go around, that means we can imagine the volume of containerization that is going to happen and the facilities that have to be created and the number of ports expand, the capacity, the capacities that which have to be looked into, and even the ports, number of ports to be built in the future. And the non-major ports are contributing significantly towards have to contribute significantly towards the future container traffic. And if you look at the container volumes, the top three container ports, that's the Jayakumar port, Mundra and China. Mundra is a non-major port or a private port, and Chennai together control 75% of the total container traffic. These are some interesting statistics. And if you look at the ports in the south, Chennai, Kochi, and Tuticorin, they account for 30% of the total container volumes. Now let's look at transshipment. So transshipment, in order to achieve economies of scale, the sizes of container vessels are increasing day by day, which warrants ports with large water depths to accommodate the vessels to call. Such large vessels require, or such larger vessels or mother vessels require, they prefer to call at the ports which are hugging the major international shipping lanes. So these mother vessels discharge the container or the cargo at the hub ports or the large deepwater ports where they drop the cargo, and the feeder vessels, they pick up the cargo which is dropped at these major transshipment or the hub ports, and they take it to the feeder ports in our country. So this sort of arrangement is called transshipment. And there are certain attributes for transshipment ports. Then you require high frequency feeder services from between the hub and the feeder ports. And as I mentioned, it has to be strategically located. That is, the mother vessels prefer to call at the ports hugging the international shipping lanes, and we need high-tech infrastructure at these ports. If you look at the transshipment ports along the route which hugs our Indian peninsula, southern part of the peninsula, you can see a lot of transshipment terminals, and there are none in India. And if you see the international shipping routes, you can see the percentages indicated. Those are the transshipment volumes, and the rest will be the gateway traffic of those respective ports. And if you look at Colombo, 75% of Colombo's traffic is transshipment cargo. If you look at Tanjung or Singapore, it's 90% transshipment. If you look at Sarara or Dubai, 50% and 96% respectively. So this is sort of transshipment volumes that these ports outside they handle. And because we don't have any transshipment port in our soil, our transshipped cargo is being handled at the ports outside our country, like the ports of Colombo, Salalah, Dubai, Singapore. And this is another picture which I've taken from the Maritime India Vision document, which has been released by the Honorable Prime Minister 2 or 3 months back. So if you look at Indian transshipped cargo, 75% of our transshipped cargo is being handled at our neighboring ports like Colombo, Malaysia, in this port line, Singapore, Dubai ports, and of which 85% of the transshipped cargo which is done outside is handled by Colombo. That means around a significant volume of the transshipment is done by Colombo. And Colombo, they are expanding their capacities looking at our cargo. So this is a sort of strategy which Colombo has planned. So it is high time that India looked into setting up its own transshipment port to cater to the requirements of our country. So this is where Vizhinjam comes in the picture. Why this port and how this Vizhinjam is a differentiator. So let's look at the key factors that is driving the need. One is, of course, increase in containerization and ship sizes, because right now, 10 years ago, when Vallarpadam was poised to be developed as a transshipment terminal, the ship sizes, what we were thinking at that time, were the order of 8,000 or 9,000 TEUs. Currently, right now, the largest container vessel plying in this route is of the order of 24,000 TEUs carrying capacity. So you can imagine over a period of 10 to 15 years time, the container sizes have increased rapidly, and the number of vessels have also increased. So lack of deepwater ports is another compelling need, especially for transshipment in our country. And the mother vessels prefer to call it deepwater ports as hugging the international shipping lanes. And majority of the Indian ports, as I mentioned, are transshipped at the foreign ports. And as a result, we are losing a significant amount of foreign exchange, which the Central Planning Commission has estimated to be of the order of 1,500 crores per year. And the manufacturers, they lose heavily as a result of the cargo handled at the neighboring ports, which per container, per TEU, they have to shell out about $180 to $200 in excess of what otherwise, if we had a container transshipment hub in our country. And of course, it's for propelling the maritime and socio-economic growth. And if you look at Vizhinjam, the advantage, there are a lot of natural advantages as far as Vizhinjam is concerned. It is located at the southern tip of India. It is, if you look at the Indian peninsula, we are at the bottom, Vizhinjam is at the bottom end of the funnel. And it's almost central to the Indian coastline, so it's equally balanced. And we have 6 major ports to the west, on the west side of west coast, and 6 on the east coast. And the international shipping routes are just 10 nautical miles away. And we have a large hinterland access in South India, which Vizhinjam would be able to serve all the 4 southern states very easily, or within 48 hours, then all the 4 states can be serviced. And we have natural deep waters of within 20 meters within a nautical mile, which can cater to the very large container vessels of the order of 24,000 TEUs vessels which are flying in this route. And the international shipping lanes hugging our Indian peninsula, they carry almost 30% of the world cargo, which is quite significant. And there are a lot of vessels operating in this region. And Vizhinjam has come in the maritime map as a result of the crew change which is happening now. And we have crossed about 300 vessels crew changing since the COVID pandemic has hit world over. And so we are doing, it's quite a great service which Vizhinjam Port is currently doing in the matter of crew change. And another natural advantage with regard to Vizhinjam is the minimal littoral drift, which means that unlike other ports where you have the maintenance dredging throughout the year, Vizhinjam hardly requires any maintenance dredging, because this is a blessed site which falls within a sediment cell where the sediments movement is significantly very little. As a result, you don't need any maintenance dredging at all, except the capital dredging to start to do this, to deepen the channel up to the berth level at the initial stages. And Vizhinjam is a greenfield site And as a result, the developer could have flexibility in designing the layout of the terminal and the berths and things like that. And again, it's just to show the shipping routes hugging this the bottom part of the Indian Peninsula. We have two major shipping lanes. One is from the Suez Canal route and going to the Far East, and another from the Dubai region. So these are the two major shipping routes which currently drop the major vessels call at Colombo, since we don't have a transshipment up in our soil. And this is just to show the distances from the various ports. From Colombo, it's about around 20 nautical miles to the nearest shipping lane, and whereas Vizhinjam and it's only 10 nautical miles to the shipping lane. So this is strategically well located, and which need hardly an hour's time to reach Vizhinjam. And the same advantage is there for the Hon'ble terminal, which is already there, but we have a lot of geopolitical risks associated with Sri Lanka. So I think, so with that, Vizhinjam looks promising to be developed immediately as a transshipment hub for India. And with a view to developing this port, Government of Kerala has formed a special purpose vehicle, which I would say, which consists of a very powerful board, with the Honorable Chief Minister of Kerala as the chairman, with 7 ministers, including the Chief Minister of Kerala, as the directors in the company which I head as the managing director. And we have the Honorable MD, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, also as the director in our company, and the Chief Secretary, Additional Chief Secretary Finance, Secretary Reports as directors, apart from besides the Managing Director and CEO. And we started the project with a lot of studies. And if you look at the various studies and consultants engaged in this project, I think most of the international consultants have laid their hands on this project. If you look at Government of India, the IIDC, the ILF's Infrastructure Development Corporation, World Bank, IFC, Ernst & Young, you name any consultant, they have worked for this port. Rockember in Germany, Truly Consultants, AECOM, the L&T Infrastructure Engineering, L&T Ramboll, DMT Consultants. Then we have a lot of legal consultants, and for rights, RV and PwC, NatPac. So a lot of consultants are there, and extremely detailed investigations, field studies, surveys have gone into. And as Professor Malini Shankar has mentioned, that is talking about the environmental aspects. The environmental studies have been done in detail, and there were a lot of complaints put forth before the Honorable NGT as well as the Supreme Court, and there were a lot of hearings which have taken place at the various levels, and finally the Honorable NGT, with the direction of Honorable Apex Court, has come out with a speaking order giving green light to the port, and at the same time forming high-level statutory committees to look at what we are doing, how the environment is protected, and what are the studies that have gone in. And during the course of construction of the port, also the committees have been formed to personally visit the site, undertake to see the studies and the construction going on. Once in 6 months, they have to make field visits, come to Vizhinjam, conduct detailed studies, and do all the investigations, see the analysis what we are doing once in 6 months. And we are doing the complete data collection and analysis for a distance of 20 kilometers towards the north and south of the port, as per the direction of NGT, Honorable National Green Tribunal. And so far, so good. And we have seen that there are no adverse comments made by the NGT committee as well as the shoreline monitoring cell. And see, one natural advantage, or I would say, why Vizhinjam is a blessed site, because we fall, or the Vizhinjam location falls within a sediment cell, where the adjacent shorelines are not affected as a result of the port development happening within this particular sediment cell. That is the one great thing what we have seen, and how the site has been chosen after a lot of studies. So that is one great advantage as far as this project is concerned. And we are trying to, and we are projecting all these studies, and we are uploading the analysis, the data collected every 6 months or every month, and the wave data. All these data are being analyzed by institutions like National Institute of Ocean Technology, National Center for Earth Science Studies, and they are all uploaded in the website so that it is available in the public domain. So that is how we go or tread forward in going ahead with the construction of the project. And this, coming to the master plan, so this is the sediment cell which I have been talking about. You can see a promontory, a rocky promontory here, and this is another promontory here. The port falls within this location. And looking at the wave direction and the sediment transport, the predominant sediment transport happens in this region, that is towards this region where my cursor moves. So, and because of the rocky promontory and pocket beaches immediately north of the beach, there is hardly any sediment movement towards the north of the port. And towards the south, only accretion happens. And we have, before the start of the commencement of the port, we have done a lot of numerical studies through various consultants. And we have seen that there is hardly any erosion which would happen as a result of the port development towards the north. And only some accretion would happen to the south of the port in this region. So that is one of the very what do you call promising aspect as far as this port was located or sited at this particular location. And coming to the on the explanation for this port, this is the first phase, which consists of a 3,100 meter long breakwater. And this comes 300 meters away from the existing fishing harbor, which could be seen here. And the port is being connected with the National Highway 66 with a 2-kilometer road connectivity. And there will be a railway line connecting the nearest railway station, Balrampuram, which is 11 kilometers from this site, of which 9.9 kilometers would be through a tunnel, for which Common Railway has been interested with the work of this particular project. And the cost estimated for this project is 1,660 crores, for which the DPR is at the final stages of approval by the railways. And this will be the second longest tunnel in the country, next to Pir Panjal in Kashmir. And these brown patches are the lands acquired and handed over to Adani for setting up the port backup facilities. The truck terminal would be located in this region, and the container freight stations and other port facilities would be here. And the immediate port facilities, backup facilities will be in this region. And there's a bit of acquisition pending with the government. And the whole land area constitutes 230 acres, and 130 acres are to be dredged and reclaimed from the channel which is required to create this channel that is to be dredged to 18.4 meters below chart datum to create the channel to cater to the mother vessels coming here. So this green portion what you see is the portion to be reclaimed. Of which 60% is completed, and this will be the area for the container terminal, container yard. And the berth will be coming in front, and this is the breakwater. And of the 3,100 meters, around 850 meters length of the breakwater is completed. The total length of the breakwater requires about, for the breakwater as well as some bunt, we require about 87 lakh tons of stones, of which 25 lakh tons have been sourced so far. And the balance, the concessionaire is facing difficulty, and for which government is also pitched in to help the concessionaire in getting stones from the nearby quarries, and they are also trying to bring in stones from the nearby places, including Tamil Nadu. So this is what I have explained. So the approach channel and turning circle involves a dredging of 7 million cubic meters. This is the capital dredging involved, and after which no maintenance dredging is required for the port. And this is the port in various phases. In the first phase, this port is will be ready to handle about 1 million TEUs, and in the subsequent phases 2, 3, and 4, ultimately the port will be able to deliver to handle about 3 to 4 million TEUs, depending upon the efficiency of the cranes and other equipment which the concessionaire would deploy at the site. And as I mentioned earlier, this is our existing fishing harbor, and 300 meters away is the start of the breakwater, and which is a rubble-bound breakwater, which will be done up to this point in the first phase, for which government is investing. And I will be coming to the total project cost. Here, government's investment is considerable in this project. Out of the 7,700 crores total project cost in the first phase, 5,500 crores is being invested by the government of India, which is basically to for the government to give a commitment to set in, to chip in, to develop the basic infrastructure, and so that the concessionaire will have to only bring in investment for setting up the berth construction, reclamation, and the equipments for the port. So these are the various components in the various phases. The first phase, there will be an 800-meter long breakwater, which can cater to design vessels of the order of 18,000 TEUs, and the capacity would be 1 million TEU per annum in the first phase. This subsequently will be enhanced depending upon the capacity augmentation, which ultimately in the fourth phase, as per our designs, it is 3 million, but of course, the port will be able to handle up to 4 million in the at the end of the phase 4. And this is the master plan when developed in 4 phases. It will have a 2-kilometer long container, but this is superimposed on the Google map, and 110 hectares of reclamation, of which 53 hectares is in the first phase. 500 meters long fishing jetty for the local community, because this is the most densest populated fisher folk in Asia, this region. So the project, as a result of the project, the local fishing community has been affected quite a lot, and they have been compensated and are being compensated by the state government by giving lot of employment opportunities, and also by compensation, by way of compensation to compensate for their loss in fishing. And this is a rubble-bound breakwater, and this is a typical cross-section which comes, which is shown at 20-meter water depth. The major portion will be the core, which consists of 0.5 to 500 kg stones, and the outer armor layer will be of various grade stones with 1 to 2 tons, 2 to 4, and 3 to 6 tons. And on the outer face, where the breakwater has to take the brunt of waves, there will be concrete armor units which will be artificial concrete blocks called acropods, which are the patent of a concrete layer innovation of France. And the breakwater is designed by a Danish group called COWI, COWI, for which the model studies have been conducted at the HR Wallingford, which is one of the world's most advanced labs in the world, is in UK. So the model studies for the breakwater was done at the Wallingford lab. The breakwaters are tested for various conditions there. And these are the acropods which are cast at site to form the outer armor layer to take the maximum waves, which can be of the order of 8 to 10 meters during extreme wave conditions. So each block would weigh 13.5 tons, which will be placed in 2 layers along the outer face of the breakwater. And this is the cross section of the berth for the berthing of vessels. And this consists of 5 layers of layers of piles along the transverse direction, and each pile is of the order of 1.3 to 1.5 meters diameter, which goes up to 40 meters below the seabed, depending upon the founding layer where the hard rock is met. And the water depth at this location in the front is around 18 meters. So you can imagine the total length of the piles, 18 plus another 40 meters, depending upon the founding level. So 40 plus 58 meters plus another 5-6 meters above. So 64 meters or 65 meters would be the length of the pile and the foundation pile which has gone below. And on top of the pile would be the transverse beams and cross beams on which the deck slabs are supported, on which the rails would be laid for supporting the the cranes to handle the container cranes or to handle the cargo to be handled from the vessels. And road connectivity, I've mentioned, it's a 2-kilometer road which is already in progress, and rail connectivity, it will be in place by 2025. And the development model is through a public-private partnership, and where this private PPP component would consists of dredging and reclamation, berth, superstructure, equipment, and road connectivity, which is being done by the concessionaire. And the state support is for the breakwater and fishing hub, which is around 1,500 crores. And then the VGF comes, as Dr. Malini Shankar has put it. This is the viability of funding. This is the first VGF approved project by the Government of India. And VGF funding component will be 20% from Government of India, for which we are at the advanced stages of getting this VGF from central government. And the equal share has to be put by the state government, which is again 20%. So this works out to 818 crores from the central government and 818 crores from the state government. Together it is 1635 crores, which was the bidding parameter at the time of bid, which the concessionaire has quoted in terms of grant. So that grant is the viability gap funding, which has to be given to the concessionaire during the stages of development or construction and development. And a concession agreement was signed and based on the model concession agreement prepared by the State Planning Commission. And the period of the concession was for 40 years, which includes a 3-year construction period and design. And this 40 years would start from 2015, the year 2015, when the concession agreement was signed. And there is an extension of 20 years in the concession agreement, depending upon the capacity augmentation to increase the concession period. So the scheduled completion date was 2019 December, and now it's delayed. And the cure period given to them is also over. And so they are we have issued notice to the concessionaire for penalty or for the damages to be levied from them, and they are going ahead with the construction, and we are also supporting them because in the good spirit of public-private partnership agreement, we would like the port to be built without any further delay. And this is the total cost of the project. So the 4,889 crores is for the total PPP component, and the rest goes from the Government of India, Government of Kerala. And if you look at the total project cost, almost 68% cost is the investment from Government of India, and only 33 or 32% cost is from the private sector. So that is the commitment of Government of Kerala with regard to the project. And for the land acquired, for the land which is acquired and transferred to the concessionaire, we have already spent around 850 crores, including the land cost and the rehabilitation of the landowners. And yeah, this I've already mentioned. And this shows the progress of construction of Breakwater. And on the left side, you can see the Breakwater, which is in progress. And these are the acropods. Around 20,000 odd acropods are required, of which around 11,000 are already cast and are in place. And materials are already being stacked at site for the Breakwater of various grades. And this is the berth construction, which is in progress. The berth, the precast slabs are already in place, the beams are already in place, but to lay the slabs for the berth, you need the breakwater to be significantly advanced, which otherwise would result in wave attack on the berths, so and create a lot of slamming forces on the slab on the berth, which is not desirable. So we are waiting for the breakwater to advance significantly so as to complete the slab portion of the berth, as well as to place the crane rails and then the mechanical handling equipments on top of that. And on the right side, you can see the reclamation, which is already done. The shoreline is, can be seen behind, and this is the reclamation they have carried out. The concessionaire has carried out, and this is the dredging to create the land. You can see the land which has been created. This is the original shoreline, and all this land has been reclaimed and created, but still a long way to go. But for 60% of this land has been reclaimed, and the container facilities are all coming in, and the railway yard within the port will come here inside, and the other storage facilities, the port administrative buildings are all in place. And taking cognizance of the huge development in the region, we have identified deploying the Center for Environment Planning and Technology of Ahmedabad to do an influence zone mapping for the area, and an area of 272 square kilometers have been identified as the influence zone of the port, and an area development plan has been prepared, delineating various zones for various purposes. That is besides the port development, and various zones have been identified for setting up various facilities for industrial, residential, or recreational zones. And this is the area which has been delineated. And another initiative of the government is to set up a 2.5 kilometer wide corridor with a 60 meter wide right of way road bypassing Trivandrum city. That is to connect the port with the national highway bypassing Trivandrum. So this, with the support of Government of India under the Bharatmala project, the government is going ahead with this. And this will have a 2.5 kilometer wide corridors on either side of the road with a lot of zones for industries and development zones on either side of the road. That is also being done parallelly by the state government. And this is the layout of the outer area growth corridor. It is named as outer area growth corridor, which bypasses Trivandrum city to go to the next district, Kollam, from Trivandrum. Vizhinjam, again, we are going to be a smart port. And if you look at the challenges faced by the ports today, it is we can bring it under three heads. The first, the gigantism, that is particularly concerning the ever-increasing sizes of vessels. Ship sizes are becoming large. So to provide an idea of the scale, the largest container ships which have to come to the port is of the order of 400 meters long, equivalent to the size of 4 football pitches. And similarly for cruise vessels, as Professor Malini, Shankar has mentioned earlier, in the first phase, we don't have we are not planning a dedicated cruise terminal, but the same 800-meter long container terminal can be converted for the purpose of cruise to accommodate cruise vessels. But in the subsequent phase, in the phase 2, there will be a dedicated cruise terminal. And so there is a cruise vessel, the size of cruise vessels is around 300 meters, which has nearly 6,000 miles of cables involved and carrying about 7,200 meters, 200 people permanently on board. So you can imagine the size of vessels. And there are also plans for developing container vessels beyond 25,000 TEUs. We don't know how, where this sort of developments are going now. So now ports will need to adapt to these changes or to the developments to accommodate such gigantic vessels. But this cannot be changed with a wave of a magic wand. So the port infrastructure has to be developed according to suit the such developments. Hence, there's a second challenge, which is economic and financial. That is, port authorities do not necessarily have to make money, but at any rate, they cannot lose money. So in this context, becoming smart is one of the solutions to all these changes. And finally, the third challenge is the security. Now, keeping this infrastructure within the port requires a lot of money to be made safe, to look at the safety aspects. The ISPS code of the International Maritime Organization also needs a lot of investment from the security point of view. So these are the challenges that push ports to be smart. And for a port, means becoming smart means becoming more attractive and competitive. For this calls for the port to become more, that is, calls for both audacity and creativity. And in crude terms, one cannot build a ship or berths or docks and wait for ships to arrive. For a very long time, it was thought that building a port was just sufficient and then wait for the ships to be attracted. Today, a port will not come unless intelligence, without our intelligence and markets studies are done, and players are invited to the port, and only with clear, defined and anticipated strategy, and unless otherwise we cannot survive the stiff competition internationally. So ports, in order to maintain a competitive edge, must adopt a digital mindset and implement smart, friendly technologies to stay productive. So ports have to embrace the same digital breakthroughs or technologies that are disrupting other industries. And those technologies or disruptors are cloud-based services, artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain technology, Internet of Things, and sensors. Now, sensors are being introduced on the berths and on the crane handling equipments, so that predictive maintenance, predictive berthing priorities, and predictive maintenance, dredging, all these things can be carried out with a lot of new technologies. And then comes augmented reality and autonomous transportation, for which you need a lot of innovations and technologies. So a port which does not adopt these technologies may not be able to survive the intensity of international competition. So if you look at a smart port concept, port environments have to become intricate partner. They have to be a link in the whole ecosystem that include port terminals, authorities, shipping lines, trucking and logistic companies, and storage providers. So this is the ecosystem which we can see. To be truly effective, stakeholders have to do more than just simply adopt these technologies on their own. Instead, they have to be part of it. They have to embrace platforms and services that make it easier for the stakeholders to work together in the same platform. And these platforms and services will let individual partners expand their businesses without adding substantial new infrastructure or equipment. So this is the sort of smart port which is being thought of, but only discussions have started in this line. And by 2 years down the lane, when the port would be in place, or the port operations will be in place, Vizhinjam would be a smart port to look at. And this will be with the state-of-the-art technology. This will be serving as the prime or the #1 transshipment terminal of the country. And this is a small animation of how the port would look like when it is fully in place and operational. So this is an animation made to scale to show the infrastructure once it is in place. This is from the highway, from National Highway, 2-kilometer road to the port. So the cruise berths are planned in the subsequent phases. So thank you for your patient listening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Jayakumar.
Thank you, sir.
It's been a very interesting and very detailed presentation, and I'm sure like the participants, the members in this, I can see at least 50 plus participants. The kind of insight information that's coming here. Thanks for this. Mr. Dasgupta, we get into a question and answer mode. Like, how do you handle this? Like,
yes, we can go through a few question answers.
Okay.
You can select them at your discretion, sir, on the QA.
Yeah. I have just 2 points to just start off. See, you mentioned about the smart port.
Just one.
Yeah, Dasgupta.
Dr. Jayakumar, you can stop sharing your screen.
Okay. I think, okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Jayakumar, like 2 points. One was about how green is the port from an energy perspective. Like as you move forward, would the energy be significantly green? Because I know for sure that in the Maritime India Vision, there's a significant discussion on this. Point 2 would be what Dr. Malini Shankar also posed right at the start. From an equipment point of view, I'm not talking about the design part of it right now, but equipment point of view, how much of Make in India could be there? Like let's say the cranes and various other things, would we see quite a bit of Make in India? So 2 questions, one on the energy side, green part, and the other one on the Make in India part.
Okay, can I answer, sir? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, so coming to the green port concept, we have just in the process of looking into all these things, because the concessionaire has to come up with the renewable power purchase obligations. But besides that, we are planning to set up a green hydrogen bank in this place. And we have already initiated discussions with the Indian Oil Corporation, and also we are also joined hands with the ANERT, the Agency for Non-Renewable Energy and Rural Technology, to set up a renewable energy park, whereby we can look at the possibilities to exploit wind as well as solar power. And for which already discussions have started and the papers have been moved. And to start with, a pilot wave power project, which is a floating wave power device, is going to be installed. It's in a 1 megawatt plant, which is going to be installed off Vizhinjam, along with a US-based company and IIT Madras. The proposal has been forwarded to the Ministry of Non-Renewable Energy. And once that is successful, and they are planning a sea trial off Hawaii coast after July this year. So, and subsequently, the tank test will be done at the IIT Madras wave tank, and for site-specific studies for Vizhinjam. And I am the principal investigator for that particular project, along with the head of the Department of Ocean Department, IIT Madras. So we have joined together to set up this power plant, and we have initiated studies in this manner. So along with the wave power, once that is successful, we can put a series of wave power plants even up to 10 units. So that will be purely under Make in India program. That is a commitment which is already placed before the Ministry of Non-Renewable Energy. So along with the wave energy, we are also planning to set up wind power plants by the side of the breakwater outside, and also solar to be tapped in a large manner. And Adani, they are the leader in solar power producers in the country, one of the leading power producers in the country. So they are also very keen to join hands with the government to set up or take part in this particular project. So solar, wind, wave, and biomass is another area. So with all these forms, we intend to produce green energy to produce hydrogen, green hydrogen. So which can ultimately look at the transportation for which has been mooted by the Indian Oil Corporation. And this morning also I had a discussion with them. So they are on a test case, they'll be, they intend to do something at Vizhinjam that is on to do an electrolysis and produce green hydrogen, where green hydrogen can be used for the land vehicles at the same time to power the future vessels which would come to this port. So this is from the point of green hydrogen or green energy. And moreover, this port will not be catering to any dirty cargo. And this will be absolutely for containers, cruise, and only bag or project cargo and break bulk in the very neat form of break bulk. And no dirty cargo will be handled at this port. So that is one thing which I would like to say. So this is going to be a completely green port, which already we have committed to the Ministry of Environment and Forests and before the Hon'ble Green Tribunal. And then coming to the equipment point, for the container handling equipment, right now we don't have any manufacturers in India to manufacture such superposed Panamax cranes, which can handle up to a reach of 60 meters to lift the container from such a beam width of the container ships, that is across 60 meters across the vessel. So the concessionaire has ordered all these cranes with ZPMC in Shanghai, China, and halfway through COVID pandemic hit and the factories were closed, but now they are opened and the manufacturing has started. But for the initial first phase, at least, I don't think that a lot of Make in India contribution or the contribution for the equipment to be manufactured in India may not be that bright. So we intend to bring everything from China, for which orders have been made. 9 superposed Panamax ship-to-shore cranes and 24 container rail-mounted gantries are all being manufactured in China. Okay. And the tugs are manufactured in Japan and they're already brought to India. Some launches are all made in our Indian manufacturing yards. But I think in the subsequent phases, once the capacities or capabilities could be developed in our country, I think this could be looked at.
We have a few questions. I can see there are at least 20 questions, but before I get into the specifics, a few people, there's a common theme, and I'm sure like the question is, when will we see the first ship entering the harbor kind of a thing, or when will the port be? This come from Anand Srivastava. I can see Hemant Gupta is asking the same question. Prakash Iyer is asking the same question. So a feel of when could, because you explained why it's been delayed and there is a delay. So when could probably be seeing the first phase getting commissioned?
See, as I mentioned earlier, the breakwater is the critical component for the port because this is on a natural coast. Unlike the Vallarpadam or other natural harbors, where there is the port is within a river, this is on an open coast where it's subjected to wave action all the time. Every 10 seconds or 12 seconds, the wave impinges on the coast. So we need a tranquil area to protect the facilities from the wave action. So primarily, the primary requirement is the breakwater. And the breakwater can be of various types. It can vary from rubber mount to caissons and or combi wall or steel diaphragm wall type. So a lot of things are there. Again, it comes to the matter of striking a balance between cost, the time of construction, availability of materials and things like that.
What's a rough approximation which we are seeing now? Because now we are 21 July. So
we have taken recently we have taken stock of the situation and we have reviewed the progress. By 23, the port should be on stream. This is what the latest we have discussed. And it again, the question is about some of the cases before the Honorable NGT, which and before the Supreme Court, which will have to be promising or which looks promising for a place like Kerala on the clearances between the quarries and these places. So once at least 6 to 7 quarries we get clearance in the next 2 or 3 months, I think immediately after the monsoon, the work can start vigorously, and thereby we can achieve the dream of having the port commissioned in 2 years down the line.
Can we have this question from Mr. Ashwini Otta on the screen? Like I can see Mr. Otta is asking, like, if we have problems with rock availability, wouldn't there be other alternatives, and has this been explored? This is a question.
Yeah, we have explored other forms, predominantly a combi wall with a steel cofferdam type breakwater was examined. But again, it is with sections like you have to form a circular cofferdam with a lot of with steel piles, with sheet piles of such sections, which will be joined along the diameter of the cofferdam. But again, when it is subjected to the intermittent waves, a lot of fatigue and creep happens, for which the designs we checked with IIT and with BAM International of Netherlands, which came up with this proposal. We had extensive discussions with them. And finally, because of the concerns, especially at the joints, we dispensed with the idea of going in at this point of time. Then the other alternative would be an RCC caissons, reinforced cement caissons, for which you need a very large shipyard or a casting yard to bring it, to manufacture all these things, then tow it to this location and do it. Again, first thing is cost, second thing is the infrastructure to build all these things and do it. So, and since rock is available in cheap and in plenty, only thing is the environmental regulations and the clearances have to be obtained. This is found to be a better alternative and a cheaper alternative for this particular location and to be completed. I think we'll be able to circumvent the ongoing difficulties and go ahead without any much delay.
Okay.
In this project.
Can we have this question from Sunny Thomas added to the Q&A panel? I can see the admin has said this, so I can read this out while you are trying to do this.
You can come on video, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have unmuted.
Mr. Sunny Thomas.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question is that no, you didn't mention anything about the environmental clearance part of it in your initial presentation now. So that being a very important aspect of the project, I was just wondering whether you have received all the environmental clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest.
Mr. Sunny, your video is off. If you're purposefully off, it's okay. Otherwise, your video is off. Yeah.
No, I can switch it on. Video, you can do it.
So Sunny Thomas is asking just to make sure that all MOEF clearances have been there, because you explained NGT issues, but prima facie the MOEF clearances would have been there, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll come to this point. Because we did extensive investigations prior to commencement of the project. We did extensive investigations on the environmental aspects, on all environmental aspects. We engaged a lot of consultants and NIOT, L&T Infrastructure Engineering, National Center for Earth Science Studies, all participated in the investigations. And this were extensively debated at the before the Expert Appraisal Committee of the MOEF. and environmental clearance was given in the year 2014 for this project, after which the bids were invited. And later, before at the time of the commencement of the project, again, there were a lot of representations from various NGOs and various agencies, and which went up to Supreme Court, level of Supreme Court, and they were all referred to the National Green Tribunal. And again, a lot of deliberations were held, and finally, the Honorable NGT came out with a speaking order giving clearance for the project. But at the same time, they ensured that a committee will look into the environmental aspects of this right from the beginning of the project till the construction of the project and during the operations, for which specifically the top scientists from all the leading institutions of the country were pinpointed and taken and nominated by the Honorable Supreme Court into this committee. There are two committees constituted. One is an expert committee and another is a shoreline monitoring cell. These two were supposed to, the cell as well as the committee are to meet once in 6 months in site here, and they will go through all the, they will visit the site, they will look at all the adjacent areas where it's to look at the erosion or accretion problems, the problems related to fishermen, the other environmental parameters, and all these things we have to present before the committee, and these the results of the our what you call findings and the minutes of the committee are all uploaded in the public web domain once in 6 months, and it is available in the public domain. So far, as of now, and if there are any comments or complaints even now, they can still refer to the Honorable NGT committee, and they will definitely look into it. And very extensively, all these parameters are being monitored, data are being collected. For 20 kilometers on either side, we do profiling once in 6 months for the shoreline changes, for all the flora and fauna data, everything, and we present before the committees. And so far, no adverse comments have been received or pointed out by the committee. So this is the status as far as the environmental clearance, and the environmental clearance, the validity got over by 2021, which has been further extended by another 2 years till the January 2024. So that is the state of EEC clearance as far as this project is concerned.
I think that's clear.
Okay.
And
yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Jayakumar, for a very detailed explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a from Admiral G.K. Harish. If Admiral Harish is online, the question is pointed. This regarding shore power and AC plants on berth, and would you create facilities for this? Because I understand there's a new requirement, and even according to the Maritime India Vision, I understand. So Admiral Harish is here. Harish, Admiral, you can ask your question. Admiral Harish has to be unmuted. Yeah.
Thank you very much for an excellent presentation, Dr. Jayakumar. My question is that in the new ports that are going to come up, we are looking at the ships not running their, the AC plants or the diesel alternators because of noise pollution regulations which are coming up with IMO. Also with low sulfur requirements in the years to come and green, targets which IMO has laid. What are the provisions which are being put into the shore infrastructure to handle these futuristic requirements? Thank you.
See, as far as the power requirement is concerned, right now we have the Kerala State Electricity Board. There's the external, as part of the external support infrastructure, government is committed to provide supply. And right now there is a 66 kVA line providing power for the construction purpose. And for the once when the port is in operation and for other ancillary developments, a 220 kVA line is already the work of it is in the fag end of its completion. So this power will be available in the next 2 or 3 months down the lane, for which the substations are all already. That is for the port to commence operation. With regard to meeting the standards as per the IMO and all, as mentioned earlier, the concessionaire will be looking into all the green fuel and things like that to adhering to the stipulations of IMO, for which support from the government side will be offered to them. And as of now, we have only plans to take the power which will be available from Electricity Board for the Kerala state grid, and the other things will only follow suit.
If I can just add one more, in order to cater to a large clientele, you could consider both 50 Hertz and 60 Hertz power supply. Thank you.
Sure, yeah, definitely we will take note of it and we'll be looked into. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have a question from Mr. Ramesh Krishnakumar. So if Mr. Ramesh is here, this is regarding bunkering facilities, especially for the next generation fuels. Mr. Ramesh Krishnakumar.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, Ramesh, go ahead.
Jayakumar was my.
Yeah. We can't see you, Mr.
We
Krishna.
can't see you.
I am unable to. Yeah, okay. I'll put on my video.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, hi. Jayakumar was my schoolmate, so all the more. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. It was really very precise, technical. What people like us expect from you, and because we want more technical details, and you really, presented it. My only question was, from the bunkering perspective of these sophisticated ships which are going to come there, the big container ships and cruise ships, what kind of facilities will you have in the future? Because you are talking about hydrogen and all these future fuels. So what kind of facilities, because these ships will also be state of art.
Yeah, see, currently bunkering is not envisaged in the first phase. In the subsequent phase, in fact, Indian Oil Corporation is already in discussions with us to set up bunkering facility. And also Adani, the concessionaire is Adani Vizhinjam Private Limited, and they also have plans to set up in the second phase for bunkering. And parallelly, this green hydrogen and all those things, what we are talking about is also to come in the subsequent phases. Right? Currently, we are only concentrating on building this port to come to this port operation. So all these plans are in the pipeline. So we are having discussions in this line with several agencies and many other players like Exmar of Belgium, and so many other players have shown interest to set up their bunkering facility and all. And in fact, we have also created some proposal or made some proposal to have another outer harbor facility also to create some sort of a bunkering from the side of government to tie up with companies like IOCL or other agencies. So I think that comes in the subsequent phases, for which we have not have any plans, concrete plans as of now. Still, we are in the discussion stages.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Dasgupta, can we take a few more questions, or are we off time?
Mr. Ramanathan has requested a question.
Okay.
He wants to ask a live, and Professor Shenoy, he is also he wishes to ask a question to Dr. Jayakumar.
Yeah.
Professor Shenoy from UK, Southampton University.
Professor Shenoy, can you go ahead and ask the question?
Yeah. Can you unmute him? Can I request Bhavya or yeah, Mr. Ramanathan and Professor Shana. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Ramanathan, you can ask first whatever you
Yes,
wish.
I can ask. And Mr. Jayakumar, a very sound and professional presentation. And my name is Ramanathan. And just for the humor part, maybe we spend some good time in CETA. Maybe you can right now.
Yeah.
Being heard, now I
Thank you.
want to contribute for the Vizhinjam port because I recently came down to Trivandrum after a voluntary exile.
Okay.
So that is my next mission, actually, to meet you. My question is, how can we visit Vizhinjam port at this stage?
I don't see any problem in you to visit Vizhinjam. Anytime you are welcome to visit Vizhinjam.
Thank you very much. And basically, I don't know whether there's any security restrictions or any kind of a thing.
Of course, there are COVID protocols and security restrictions, but you can give me a call and come down, please.
Spend most of my time only on ships in port and auditing the ports. So it would be a good opportunity, if you would allow me.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Thank you. So I'll get in touch with you, sir.
Can I request Professor Shenoy to unmute and kindly ask a question? We would love to see you as well.
Professor Shenoy?
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we
can you hear
see
me? I'll get to one side now.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jayakumar. It was a pleasure to hear you talk on a very complex subject, and you covered a huge range of topics in a very simple way to understand. So thank you for that. I had a couple of questions, but some have been answered. So I'll just ask one of you, and that is in terms of the cargo handling rate and the speed, because one of the things about container ports is how quickly you can unload from the ship and then get it off to the business that requires that particular container. So based on your studies so far, what do you think is the possibilities? What are the possibilities and how fast can you unload and get the cargo from the ship to the business, say in Ernakulam or wherever, and vice versa?
So if I'm correct, I think your question pertains to the handling of containers from the ship to the berth, primarily.
Ship to the berth, but also ultimately it has got to get to where it is needed. So whether it's a factory or a business that deals with whatever is coming in the containers, they've got to get it out quickly. So the bottlenecks around roads, rail, and the subsequent journey.
Professor Shana is also asking about the evacuation.
Evacuation.
Yes. I understand, sir. I understand, sir. See, primarily this Vizhinjam is being developed as a transshipment terminal. So here, 85% is what we expect as the transshipment transshipment cargo. That means mother vessels or big vessels bring the cargo and drop at Vizhinjam. And from here, the feeder vessels will take it to the neighboring ports, like Tuticorin or Cochin, New Mangalore Port or Chennai, and so on and so forth, even to Madagascar or Bangladesh, or wherever they are. So only 15% constitutes the gateway traffic. And before which we have planning to evacuate the cargo by means of road. There will be there's an excellent national highway connectivity now connecting that is going through Kerala and connecting the various parts into Tamil Nadu and other places. And we are 2 kilometer road connectivity is also in progress. The work is under progress. So which once it is ready, the containers can move via road to the National Highway 66, which was earlier National Highway 47, and it can go up north anywhere to Cochin or Salem, and towards this side to Kanyakumari or to Chennai and things like that. And the rail route, once that which will be ready by 2025, can evacuate the cargo via rail connectivity to Balrapuram station, and from there towards the north or towards Chennai route, or towards the north via Kerala, that is through Cochin and all, also can be taken. So this is the sort of evacuation arrangement what we have planned to take this cargo out. And because this being mainly predominantly a container transshipment port, the feeder, there will be effective feeder services from Vizhinjam connecting the minor ports or ports which are away from Vizhinjam, which will have to be taken certainly through the by feeder vessels. And coming to the cranes, we are ordered for the state-of-the-art super post Panamax advanced cranes, which can do 25 or 30 moves of containers per hour from the ship to the shore, from the ship to the berth, and from there the prime movers can take it to the container yard, and from the container yard the trucks can take it outside, or when the feeder vessel comes to the port, from the container yard the prime movers can pick it up and bring it back to the feeder vessels. This sort of arrangement is there, and this will be a very, very advanced modern port with the state-of-the-art technology, which will be used for the cranes and other handling equipments. So definitely this would be able to cater to the transshipment requirements of the region.
Mr. Dasgupta, can I just request one more question, then we move forward?
Yes, please.
Mr. Alex Anthony, if he is here, a little bit contentious at the same time, maybe people would want to know, like the questions revolve around Vizhinjam and Vallarpadam. So if Alex is here, like because the question is, would this be a drain on Vallarpadam, or can there be synergies? Alex, you could ask this question, and I think this should be the last question, and then I hand over to Mr. Dasgupta. But if Alex is here, you can ask. Yeah, Alex, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Alex Anthony from Cochin, and probably Mr. Jayakumar might know me also.
Yeah, Alex, yeah, I know you.
Yeah, okay. See, how will, the three questions I raised. One is, how can Vallarpadam be better than, how can Vizhinjam be better than Vallarpadam? Vallarpadam is already a failed project. And if Vallarpadam is failed project, which is an early entry into a transshipment terminal, it has failed totally. And secondly, is Vizhinjam going to be a pure transshipment port, or it is going to cater to other cargoes? These are my two questions. And the third question I already posted to you. If you can look into it, please answer. Thanks.
Thank you.
If you can just be brief on this, is a touchy point. So, yeah, brief.
Thank you, Captain Alex. See, Vallarpadam, Vizhinjam is not a competitor to Vallarpadam. That is the first point which I have to make. Because Vallarpadam and Vizhinjam are two different classes. Earlier, when Vallarpadam was conceived, that is 15 years ago, the mother vessels were of the order of 8,000, 9,000 TEUs. And the depth at the mouth of the Cochin, officially declared draft, if I'm correct, I think Mr. Madhu can correct me if I'm wrong, it was 9.14 meters, which is dredged to 14 meters in front of the Vallarpadam. And even with 14 meters draft there, it can accommodate only vessels of the order of 6,000 or 8,000 TEUs. So at that time when Vallarpadam was conceived, that was the order of vessels, mother vessels talked about at that time. But now the vessels are of a different class. The largest vessel flying in this route is 24,000. We had for crew change a vessel which came, MSC Evergreen, which was carrying 23,000 TEU containers. So which cannot come to Vallarpadam, even is dredged. And Vallarpadam, if you know, Cochin Port did a capital dredging of 500 crores, and every year they have to do a dredging of 100 or 120 crores to maintain this 14 or 14.5 meters in front of Vallarpalam terminal. So Vallarpalam right now, I would say that this can be a good feeder port for this region, Kerala region and towards Tamil Nadu. And it can be a port which can complement to Vizhinjam, or we can look at transshipment port. Certain class of vessels can go even do transshipment at Cochin, and larger vessels can come to Vizhinjam. We can do some sort of a cooperative partnership. I would coin as co-opetition. It's not a competition, it's a cooperative competition. It can be a co-opetition. I would coin a word like co-opetition. That would be the order with Tuticorin, because every port in India wants to be a transshipment hub. I don't think that doesn't make any sense. So looking at the ports, looking at the distance from the international shipping route and the limitations of water depth and things like that, I think you have to think. One has to think themselves and look at how each port can cater to the different segment of vessels. So Vallarpalam has its own class.
Thanks, Dr. Jayakumar. I think it fairly answers that point.
Yeah.
And I should say thanks for an excellent presentation, for conveying great insights into the Vizhinjam International Seaport Limited and what's happening in Vizhinjam. I'm sure like there are a few more questions, and probably at the end of the presentation, maybe we could share Dr. Jayakumar's email ID also, so that there could be some direct pointers in case it's needed. But right now, my job is to say thanks to Dr. Jayakumar. I should also once again profusely thank Dr. Malini Shankar. But I know like this is time for Guru Purnima. This is time to say thanks to the audience, and for this to take this further, Mr. Dasgupta, all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Nair, and thank you very much, Dr. Jayakumar. It's a very, very difficult topic to cover, and you have covered it very well. There are many questions which will be there in the minds of the audience. We'll share your contact details subsequently, and you can take them up if required. With this, we come to the end of the presentation for this topic. We have just crossed the Guru Purnima period, and it is our sacred duty to honor the senior-most educationists and trainers of naval architects and ocean engineers. We have two amongst us, Dr. M.K. Ghosh Roy, who has been training and educating the naval architects for a very long time, as well as Professor S.C. Mishra, and we also thought that Professor R.P. Gokarn will also be there. They're all very, very senior teachers in naval architecture and ocean engineering, and we are very happy to have you here, sir. We pray for your happiness and health, and also keep blessing us for future. And we are happy to have Professor Shenoy also with us. All of you have spent more than 50 years in training and educating naval architects and ocean engineers. Keep blessing us always and keep guiding us. We are fortunate to have Professor Malini Shankar today, because she is the Vice-Chancellor of Indian Maritime University. We offer our best regards and our consolidated pranam to you on the occasion of the Guru Purnima. With this, I come to the end of today's session. Thank you very much. I would request our friend Bhavya to kindly give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Indeed, it was a great session today. Firstly, I, on behalf of Naval Institution of Naval Architects, would like to thank today's speaker, Dr. Jayakumar, for such an informative presentation. It is highly appreciative to see such kind of wide developments that are being undertaken along the coast of Kerala. Looking at the work underway, it is evident that India is augmenting its maritime sector with another international seaport and world-class infrastructure. Thank you once again, sir, for sharing with us all the current developments being undertaken. We are grateful to you. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Malini Shankar, and session chair, Mr. Madhu Nair, for sparing their valuable time with us and taking up this session. Thank you very much. We are privileged to have you here today. I'd like to thank all the senior members, the gurus of naval architecture in India, and participants for attending today's live session. I must say, like, this pandemic has paved path for a new era of digitalization and interactive sessions all through. So it is accessible to everyone from every part of the world. I think this would not be possible if it was a, seminar being held at Mumbai or any other part of the country. Thank you, senior members and participants, for making this session more interactive. Finally, I thank my colleagues on the executive committee, including Ms. Selvi Anthony, for their efforts put forth for the smooth conduct of the webinar. I must say it was an uninterrupted session. Thank you. So before we conclude, I'd like to bring to your notice that INA intends to conduct webinars every month to showcase more case studies, new technologies, innovations, and developments in our maritime industry. We request your active participation in the upcoming sessions as well. Any suggestions related to improvement in the sessions, specific topics you would like us to include, can be communicated to the executive committee, and even presentations and papers are all welcome. I once again thank you all for your active participation. Have a great day. Over to you, sir.